The day my mother betrayed me started like any other Tuesday at Willow and Grace, the boutique my grandmother built from nothing 50 years ago. I was arranging a new window display when I saw her striding down the sidewalk, designer heels clicking against concrete, that familiar red lipstick smile that always meant trouble. My name is Emery, and until that morning, I thought I knew exactly who I was and where I belonged. Darling, Mother's voice carried through the boutique as she swept in, trailing expensive perfume and false warmth. The place looks quaint, just like when your grandmother ran it. I bristled at her tone, but kept adjusting the vintage Chanel jacket's collar. That's the point, Mother. Our clients appreciate tradition. Please call me Regina. Mother makes me sound ancient. She perched herself on our antique counter, something that would have made grandmother apoplectic. Speaking of ancient, I've been thinking about the future of Willow and Grace. The bell above the door chimed as London, my head of logistics and closest friend, entered carrying coffee. She caught my eye, immediately sensing the tension. Perfect timing, Regina purred. London, dear, you should hear this too. I've brought someone who's going to help us modernize. On cue, he appeared, tall, dark, and wearing a suit that probably cost more than our monthly rent. Leandro Dawson, he announced, extending his hand, retail development specialist. I didn't take it. We don't need development. Our numbers are solid. Solid isn't spectacular, Regina countered, standing to loop her arm through Leandro's. Leandro has transformed struggling boutiques into gold mines, and she giggled like a schoolgirl. We've been seeing each other. London nearly choked on her coffee. You're dating our business consultant? I asked, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Partner? Leandro corrected. Your mother and I have discussed making this arrangement more permanent. The next hour was a blur of buzzwords and projections, modern aesthetics, digital integration, brand evolution. Each phrase felt like another brick in a wall between me and my grandmother's legacy. And Margaret, Regina said, gesturing to our senior saleswoman who'd worked here for 20 years. We'll have to let her go. She doesn't fit the new image. Absolutely not, I snapped. Margaret is family. Business isn't family, darling. Regina's smile didn't reach her eyes. Speaking of which, I've called a staff meeting for tomorrow morning. We're announcing some changes. After they left, London grabbed my arm. Emery, this is bad. Really bad. I overheard Regina talking last week about transferring shares. She can't. Grandmother left the boutique to me. Are you sure about that? When was the last time you looked at the will? I spent that night in grandmother's old office, digging through files, my hands shaking as I found the document. The boutique's ownership structure was more complicated than I remembered. Regina, as grandmother's daughter, had retained certain rights, rights that could be exploited. The next morning, I arrived early to find the boutique already buzzing. Regina stood at the center, Leandro at her side, holding court with our entire staff. Change is coming, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner. Willow and Grace is entering a new era. Leandro will be taking over as managing director, and I'll be overseeing the transition. This is my boutique, I said, stepping forward. You can't just. Actually, darling, I can. The board voted this morning. You'll remain as creative director, of course, a purely advisory role. Margaret raised her hand, her voice trembling. What about the rest of us? Leandro stepped forward, all white teeth and false sympathy. We'll be reviewing all positions over the next few weeks. Those who align with our new vision will be welcome to stay. I watched my employees' faces, people who'd known me since I was a child, who'd helped me learn every aspect of this business, fall into masks of uncertainty and fear, and to celebrate our new direction, Regina continued. We're planning a grand reopening gala. 6 weeks from now, Willow and Grace will reveal its new face to the world. I stood there, fury building in my chest, as she detailed her plans to destroy everything my grandmother had built. London squeezed my hand in solidarity, but I barely felt it. Later, as I sat alone in my grandmother's office, soon to be Leandro's, no doubt, I noticed something odd about the property deed framed on the wall, a detail I'd never paid attention to before. The boutique itself might be vulnerable to Regina's machinations, but the land beneath it? That was a different story entirely. I pulled out my phone and dialed our family lawyer. Christian, I need you to check something for me. It's about my grandmother's will, the part about the land ownership. Regina thought she'd won, but grandmother had always taught me to keep an ace up my sleeve. As I looked out at the boutique floor, watching my mother parade around with her boy toy, I made a promise to myself and to grandmother's memory. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The changes came like a slow-moving tsunami. First, they replaced our elegant cream walls with stark white. Then the antique mirrors disappeared, replaced by LED screens displaying fashion reels. Each morning brought a new assault on my grandmother's vision. Your office needs to be cleared by Friday, Leandro announced, strolling in without knocking. We're converting this space into a digital marketing hub. I looked up from the sales reports I'd been reviewing. Funny, I don't recall agreeing to that. Regina signed off on it this morning. He leaned against the door frame, smirking. You know, this would be easier if you just embraced the changes. Like Margaret embraced them? I shot back. They'd fired her yesterday after 20 years of loyal service. Or like the 3 other employees you've let go this week. Casualties of progress. He shrugged. Speaking of which, your friend London's position is under review. My head snapped up. Touch her job, and You'll what? His smile turned predatory. Face it, Emery, you're just the founder's granddaughter now. A relic, like everything else we're updating. After he left, I called London to warn her. She answered on the first ring. Already ahead of you, she said. I've been documenting everything. The questionable terminations, the unauthorized expenses, the way they're bypassing standard procedures. But there's something else you need to see. We met in the storage room during lunch. London pulled out a stack of papers she'd retrieved from accounting. Look at these invoices, she whispered, spreading them across an old dress form. They're charging renovation costs at triple the market rate. The contractor? It's a company Leandro's sister Yvonne owns. Classic kickback scheme, I muttered, but it's not enough to stop them. No, but this might be. London pulled out her phone, showing me an email she'd discovered. They're planning to sell the building once the renovations are complete. Some developer wants to turn the whole block into luxury condos. My blood ran cold. Over my dead body. I spent the rest of the afternoon in the city records office, then met with Christian at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the boutique. Your grandmother was cleverer than anyone knew, he said, sliding a document across the table. The boutique's operational rights and the land deed were separated. Regina can control the business, but you own the land it sits on. They can't sell without your signature. So I can stop them? Better. He smiled. You can evict them. The bell above the boutique door chimed as I returned. Regina was holding court with her new inner circle, including Yvonne, who'd somehow become our brand consultant. Darling, where have you been? Regina called out. We're discussing the gala. Yvonne has the most wonderful ideas for... I want to see the renovation plans. I interrupted. All of them, now. Yvonne's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. Those are confidential. Nothing in this building is confidential to its owner. Regina laughed, that artificial tinkling sound that set my teeth on edge. Sweetheart, we've been over this. The ownership situation has changed. Has it? I pulled out the land deed. Because according to this, I own the ground you're standing on, every inch of it. The color drained from Regina's face. Leandro snatched the document, his eyes scanning rapidly. This is impossible, he sputtered. Check with your lawyers, I said sweetly. I'll wait. The next hour was chaos. Regina made frantic phone calls while Leandro and Yvonne huddled over laptops. I sat in my grandmother's chair, the one they hadn't managed to dispose of yet, and watched them unravel. This changes nothing, Regina finally declared, but her voice wavered. We still control the business. For now, I stood, channeling every ounce of my grandmother's dignity. But I think it's time we discuss new terms, starting with the gala. The gala is none of your concern, Yvonne snapped. Actually, it is, because if you want to hold it here, you need my permission, and I'm not feeling very permissive. Regina's eyes narrowed. What do you want? Everything, I said simply. But we can start with reinstating the employees you fired, all of them. Absolutely not, Leandro began, but Regina held up a hand. We'll consider it, she said carefully. Give us time to review the legal implications. I headed for the door, pausing only to look back at my mother. Oh, and Regina, I'm moving back into my office. The digital hub can find another home. Outside, London was waiting. Well, they're scared, I said, watching the sunset behind the boutique's facade. But scared people are dangerous. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. What are you thinking? I touched the cool brick of the building, feeling my grandmother's presence in every groove and corner. I'm thinking it's time to call in reinforcements. Do you still have Eva's number? London grinned. Regina's old best friend, the one who knows where all the bodies are buried, already on it. For the first time in weeks, I felt the tide turning. Regina and Leandro had the business, but I had the ground beneath their feet, and I was ready to make it shake. Ava chose the meeting spot, a small French cafe across town where Regina would never set foot. She sat in a corner booth, elegant in a vintage Dior blazer, stirring her coffee with calculated precision. You look just like your grandmother, she said, as I slid into the seat across from her. She had that same look in her eyes when she meant business. I need to understand my mother, I said, getting straight to the point. Why she's doing this. Ava's lips curved into a sad smile. Regina has always been chasing something she could never quite grasp. Status, validation, youth. She pulled an envelope from her bag, but this might explain it better. Inside was a yellowed newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. The headline read, Local Fashion Empire Passes to Younger Daughter. Your grandmother chose your Aunt Patricia to inherit the business originally, Ava explained. Regina was devastated. She'd worked there since she was 16, but your grandmother said she lacked something essential. I never knew I had an aunt, I said, staring at the photo of two young women, my mother and a stranger with the same eyes. Patricia died in a car accident 6 months after this article. That's when Regina got her chance, but Eva leaned forward. She never got over being second choice. When Patricia died, something in Regina died too. The joy, the creativity, it all became about proving something. London, who'd been quietly listening, spoke up. But why target Emery? She's her daughter. Because Emery reminds her too much of what she lost. Eva pulled out another document. This is from last week's board meeting. Regina's been planning this takeover for months. She's not just after control. She wants to erase every trace of the old boutique, your grandmother's legacy. And Leandro? I asked. A convenient tool, young, ambitious, willing to do the dirty work. But be careful. He's not as stupid as Regina thinks he is. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. Emergency, come to the store, now. We found Margaret waiting outside the boutique, wringing her hands. Through the windows, I could see people in moving uniforms carrying out furniture. They're clearing out the storage room, she whispered. All your grandmother's original designs, the archives, everything. I burst through the door. Regina stood supervising, clipboard in hand. What are you doing? I demanded. Decluttering, she replied smoothly. These old pieces are taking up valuable space. These old pieces are our history. I grabbed a garment bag from a mover's hands. Inside was my grandmother's first wedding dress design. History doesn't pay the bills, Leandro called from the stairs. The past is dead weight. Like your fake consulting credentials? Eva's voice cut through the chaos as she stepped inside. Hello, Regina. It's been a while. Regina's clipboard clattered to the floor. Eva, what are you? Helping your daughter understand some family history. Eva moved to my side. You always were good at erasing things that hurt you, weren't you? Get out, Regina hissed. You have no right. Actually, she does, I interrupted. As my business consultant, she has every right to be here. And as the property owner, I'm ordering you to stop this removal immediately. Leandro stepped forward. You can't, I can, and I am. Touch one more vintage piece, and I'll have you all removed for property damage. The movers looked uncertainly between us. Regina's face was pale with fury. Fine, she spat. Leave everything. We'll deal with this later. As the movers filed out, London appeared from the storage room. Emery, you need to see this. In the back of the room, behind a false panel in the wall, we found a stack of letters. They were addressed to Patricia, dated after her supposed death. She's alive, I whispered, scanning the most recent letter from just 2 years ago. My aunt is alive, and Mother knew. Patricia didn't die in that accident, Eva confirmed quietly. She left. Regina told everyone she was dead to save face, but really, Patricia had discovered something. Something about Regina's first attempt to take over the boutique. My hands shook as I read the letters. She tried to forge grandmother's signature. Patricia caught her. And now history's repeating itself, London said, but this time with you. I sat among the scattered vintage pieces, my aunt's letters in my lap, feeling the weight of 30 years of lies. The gala, I said suddenly. Regina's planning to announce the sale there, isn't she? Ava nodded. It's her moment of triumph, destroying the past and claiming the future in one grand gesture. Then that's where we'll stop her. I stood, clutching the letters. But first, we need to find Patricia. Already on it, London said, holding up her phone. The letters have a return address, small town in Oregon. I looked around the storage room at the heritage Regina had tried to erase. Mother wants to rewrite history? Fine, but this time we're going to tell the true story. Eva smiled, a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. Regina always did hate surprises, especially when they came with witnesses. For the first time, I saw clearly what needed to be done. The gala wouldn't just be Regina's grand revealing, it would be her final curtain call. The Oregon address led us to a small art gallery nestled between pine trees. Through the window, I saw a woman with silver-streaked dark hair arranging photographs. Even from behind, her posture was familiar, the same straight-backed elegance my grandmother had possessed. Ready? London squeezed my hand. I pushed open the door, setting off a small bell. The woman turned, and I found myself staring into eyes identical to my mother's. Patricia? She froze, color draining from her face. You're Regina's daughter. I'm Emery, and I need your help. Over coffee in her small office, I laid out everything. The takeover, Leandro, the planned sale. Patricia listened silently, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. History repeats itself, she finally said. Regina tried the same thing with your grandmother. When I caught her, Patricia's voice cracked. She threatened to expose my relationship with another woman. In 1992, that would have destroyed more than just my career. So you ran, I said. I chose survival. Your grandmother understood. She helped arrange everything. The accident story was her idea. Patricia pulled out an old photo album. But I never stopped watching the boutique. Or you. She showed me photographs, me at 16, arranging my first window display. At 22, graduating fashion school. Last year's spring collection launch. You were there? My voice wavered. Every major moment, hidden, but there. She smiled sadly. You have your grandmother's eye. Regina never did. My phone buzzed. A text from Eva. Emergency. Leandro making moves. Come now. We rushed back to find Eva waiting outside the boutique. Through the windows, we could see Leandro giving a presentation to several suited executives. Potential buyers, Eva explained. They're touring the property today. They can't sell without my signature, I reminded her. No, but they can tank the business first. Eva handed me a tablet. Look at these numbers. They're deliberately driving down sales, making it look like the boutique is failing. Once the value drops enough, they can force a distress sale, Patricia finished. Regina used to talk about that strategy. We slipped in through the back entrance. London met us there, face grim. It's worse, she whispered. Yvonne's been cooking the books. They're hiding profits, inflating costs. I found the real numbers hidden in an encrypted file. Can you prove it? Already sent copies to your lawyer. Leandro's voice carried from the showroom. As you can see, the property has excellent potential for redevelopment. I stepped out, Patricia close behind. Actually, the property isn't for sale. The executives turned. Leandro's smile froze. Emery, this is a private meeting. With potential buyers for a property I own? I moved closer. I should introduce myself. I'm the landlord. One of the executives frowned. Mr. Dawson assured us the sale had full ownership approval. Mr. Dawson lied, just like he lied about his business credentials. I nodded to London, who distributed folders to each executive. You'll find copies of the land deed there, along with some interesting financial discrepancies we've uncovered. This is absurd, Leandro sputtered. Who is that woman? Patricia Wilkins, my aunt said, stepping forward. Original heir to Willow and Grace, and key witness to a pattern of fraud that started 30 years ago. The executives began gathering their things, murmuring apologetically. Leandro's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. You're making a mistake, he called after them. Regina will what? My mother stood in the doorway taking in the scene. Her eyes locked on Patricia, and for the first time in my life, I saw real fear on her face. Hello, sister, Patricia said quietly. Regina gripped the door frame. You're dead. Rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated. You're doing, if I remember correctly. Get out, Regina whispered. All of you, get out. No, I planted my feet. This is my grandmother's store, and I'm not going anywhere. You ungrateful little... Regina lunged forward, but Leandro caught her arm. Not here, he muttered. Not with witnesses. She straightened, smoothing her jacket. Fine, but this isn't over. The gala is in 3 days, and I promise you. Looking forward to it, I cut in. I've invited some special guests, including the IRS Fraud Division. Regina's face went blank, her tell when she's truly rattled. She turned on her heel and stormed out, Leandro trailing behind. That went well, London said into the silence. Patricia touched my shoulder. You know she'll retaliate. Regina never could stand losing. Let her try. I looked around the showroom at the space Regina had tried to modernize into soullessness. I'm done being afraid of her. Eva appeared with a stack of papers. We need to move fast. The gala's our chance to expose everything, but we'll only get one shot. Then we better make it count. I pulled out my grandmother's original business plan, preserved in the archives Regina had tried to destroy. Time to remind everyone what Willow and Grace really stands for. Patricia smiled, the same smile I'd seen in old photos of my grandmother. Where do we start? The day before the gala, Regina was everywhere, directing decorators, barking orders, pretending she hadn't just been caught trying to sell property she didn't own. I watched from my office as she orchestrated her illusion of control. Your mother's telling everyone you had a mental breakdown, London said, dropping a stack of RSVPs on my desk. That's why you're making wild accusations about the business. Of course she is. I sorted through the responses. How many confirmed? Every major fashion editor in the city, 3 social media influencers, and 2 reality TV stars. London smirked. Plus our special guests, though they're not on the official list. A knock at the door made us both jump. Yvonne stood there, looking uncomfortable. Can we talk? She glanced nervously over her shoulder. Privately? I nodded to London, who left, closing the door behind her. My brother's planning something for tomorrow night, Yvonne blurted out. Something bad. I heard him on the phone with some guys. They're going to stage an accident with the electrical system during the gala. Why are you telling me this? She pulled out her phone, showing me text messages. Because Leandro's going to pin it on me. He's setting me up to take the fall for everything. The fraudulent contracts, the cooked books, all of it. And Regina? She knows. She helped him plan it. Yvonne's hands shook. I thought we were partners, but I was just another puppet. I studied her face, looking for deception. What do you want? Protection and revenge. She pulled out a USB drive. This has everything: recordings, documents, photos, including evidence of what they did to your grandmother's original business partner 20 years ago. My phone buzzed. Eva was calling. Hold that thought, I told Yvonne, answering the call. The IRS agents are in position for tomorrow, Eva said without preamble. And I've got something else. Remember that developer who wanted to buy the building? He just sent me proof that Regina and Leandro have been running this same scam at 3 other boutiques. Send everything to Christiane, I said. And Ava, thank you. I turned back to Yvonne. If you're serious about helping us, here's what we need. 2 hours later, I met Patricia in London at our makeshift headquarters, Ava's home office. Yvonne came through, I announced, spreading paperwork across Eva's desk. These are the real contracts Leandro's been hiding, and this, I held up a recorded conversation on my phone, is him admitting to insurance fraud. But will it be enough? Patricia asked. Regina's survived scandals before. Not like this. London pulled up security camera footage on her laptop. Watch. The video showed Regina and Leandro in the boutique's back office late at night, clearly arguing about money. Regina slapped him. He grabbed her arm. The timestamp was yesterday. Where did you get this? I never disconnected the old security system when they installed their new one, London said proudly. They had no idea it was still recording. Perfect timing, Ava said, walking in, because Regina just sent out a mass email to all gala attendees. She's announcing her engagement to Leandro tomorrow night. Patricia laughed darkly. She always did have terrible timing. There's more, I said, pulling out Yvonne's USB drive. Proof that Regina sabotaged grandmother's partnership with her original investor. She didn't just try to take over once. She's been plotting this for decades. We worked through the night, organizing evidence, coordinating with Christian and the IRS agents, planning for every contingency. By dawn, my eyes were burning, but our plan was set. I drove to the boutique early, wanting one quiet moment before the storm. But Regina was already there, directing the florist. Darling, her voice dripped honey. I've been thinking, Perhaps I was too harsh. We should talk about your role in the company's future. Funny you should mention that. I handed her an envelope. Consider it an early engagement present. She opened it, her face darkening as she read. An eviction notice? You wouldn't dare. Try me. You have 30 days to vacate the property. I'll fight this. With what money? The accounts you've been draining? I stepped closer. I know about the offshore transfers, Mother. Every last penny. For a moment, her mask slipped, revealing raw panic. Then Leandro appeared, sliding an arm around her waist. Everything okay here? He asked, eyes cold. Perfect, I said brightly. Just discussing the gala. By the way, Leandro, have you met my Aunt Patricia? She's very excited to attend tonight. The color drained from his face. Regina's fingers dug into his arm. See you both this evening, I called over my shoulder as I walked away. Oh, and Mother, wear something fireproof. I hear the truth can burn. Outside, the morning sun caught the boutique's windows, reflecting like justice about to break. My phone buzzed with a text from London. All systems go. Ready to watch your mother's empire fall? I smiled, thinking of my grandmother's portrait watching over the main showroom. Ready, I typed back. Time to take back what's ours. The boutique glittered like a diamond under the evening lights. Guests streamed in, champagne flowed, and camera flashes popped as Regina worked the room in a red designer gown, Leandro at her side like a trained peacock. Positions, everyone, I murmured into my earpiece. London confirmed the IRS agents were in place. Eva had the documentation ready, and Patricia was waiting in the wings. Your mother's about to start her speech, London reported from her post near the stage. And Emery? Leandro's guys just arrived. They're heading for the electrical room. Yvonne? On it, Yvonne's voice crackled through the earpiece. I've got security redirecting them as we speak. I smoothed down my grandmother's vintage black dress, the one Regina had tried to throw away, and moved through the crowd. The air crackled with anticipation as Regina took the stage, tapping her glass for attention. Welcome, everyone. Her voice carried across the packed showroom. Tonight marks a new chapter for Willow and Grace, but first, a special announcement. Actually, Mother, I cut in, stepping onto the stage. I believe I have the floor first. As the property owner, it's my privilege to open the evening. Regina's smile froze. Leandro started forward, but Ava blocked his path, phone raised meaningfully. Ladies and gentlemen, I continued, taking the microphone, you're here to witness a transformation, just not the one you were expecting. The lights dimmed. Our cue, not Leandro's sabotage attempt. A projection appeared on the wall behind me. Security footage of Regina and Leandro's late-night argument. What you're watching is just a sample of the corruption that's been poisoning this boutique. I gestured to Patricia, who joined me on stage. Let me introduce my Aunt Patricia, not dead, as my mother claimed, but driven away by the same tactics being used today. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Regina lunged for the microphone, but I held firm. The authorities are very interested in the financial records we've uncovered, I continued. The fraud, the embezzlement, the attempted property theft. She's lying, Regina shrieked. Security, remove her. Your security team is currently assisting IRS agents in securing the premises, Eva called out, her voice carrying clearly, along with evidence of similar schemes at 3 other boutiques. Leandro broke into a run, heading for the exit. 2 agents stepped out to block his path. This is ridiculous, Regina sputtered, facing the crowd. These are baseless accusations from my mentally unstable daughter. Actually, Yvonne stepped forward, holding up her phone. I have recordings proving otherwise, including your instructions to sabotage tonight's electrical system and frame me for it. The crowd had turned hostile, phones recording everything. I spotted several fashion editors taking furious notes. You ungrateful little snake, Regina hissed at me. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing, I shot back. Everything here came from grandmother. The legacy you tried to steal, the values you tried to destroy. Values, she laughed bitterly. Your precious grandmother passed me over for Patricia. She never thought I was good enough. She knew what you were capable of, Patricia interjected. The forged documents, the threatened blackmail. She protected the boutique from you then, and now I'm helping Emery protect it again. Regina's composure finally shattered. She grabbed a champagne bottle from a nearby table and hurled it at the projection screen. It missed, shattering against my grandmother's portrait. The room fell silent. Mrs. Wilkins, an IRS agent stepped forward. We need you and Mr. Dawson to come with us. This isn't over, Regina snarled as they led her away. I'm still your mother. No, I said quietly. You're just another person who tried to steal what wasn't theirs. As the agents escorted Regina and Leandro out, London started playing the boutique's original opening day footage on the projection screen. There was my grandmother, young and proud, cutting the ribbon with Regina and Patricia at her sides. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the stunned crowd. Willow and Grace was founded on principles of integrity, creativity, and true elegance. Those values aren't relics, they're our future. And speaking of the future, I nodded to Margaret, who wheeled out racks of clothing. These are designs from our new collection, not fast fashion or trend chasing, but pieces that honor our heritage while embracing innovation, created by our original team, all of whom are being reinstated. The crowd moved forward, examining the clothes with growing enthusiasm. Fashion editors nodded approvingly. Cameras flashed. Patricia squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be proud. We're not done yet, I said, watching Ava direct reporters to copies of our evidence. The boutique needs rebuilding. Real rebuilding, not Regina's version. Together, London appeared at my side. As a family, I looked around at my true family, London, Patricia, Eva, the loyal staff who'd stood by me, and felt something settle into place. Regina had tried to erase our history, but she'd only made it stronger. The boutique glowed with renewed purpose, my grandmother's portrait presiding over it all, slightly champagne-splattered but unbowed, just like her legacy. The morning after the gala, I arrived at the boutique to find Regina waiting outside. She looked smaller somehow, without her designer armor and false confidence. You've ruined everything, she said as I unlocked the door. The press is having a field day. My reputation is destroyed. You did that yourself. I left the door open, knowing she'd follow. The IRS wants to talk to you about tax evasion. I want to make a deal. I turned to face her. What could you possibly offer? Information. She pulled out a folder. About your father. My heart stuttered. She'd never told me anything about him, claiming he'd abandoned us before I was born. That's low, even for you. It's true. She set the folder on the counter. He tried to warn your grandmother about me. That's why I had to discourage him from staying in our lives. Before I could respond, Patricia walked in with London and Ava. Still manipulating, Regina? Patricia picked up the folder. Let me guess, you're offering information in exchange for us dropping the charges? Stay out of this, Regina snapped. You've done enough damage. Actually, Ava stepped forward. We found your old files this morning, including the real story about Emery's father, how you threatened to destroy his business if he didn't leave town. Regina's face contorted. You had no right. We also found this, London added, holding up a weathered envelope. A letter from grandmother, written before she died. She knew what you were planning, Regina. She saw it coming. I took the letter with trembling hands and read aloud. My dearest Emery, if you're reading this, Regina has finally made her move. She never understood that this boutique isn't about power or profit. It's about the legacy of helping women feel beautiful and strong. Trust your instincts, as I trust you. Sentimental garbage, Regina spat, but her voice cracked. She always did favor you, just like she favored Patricia. She didn't favor us, Patricia said quietly. She tried to protect us from you. The boutique's morning light filtered through the windows, catching the remnants of last night's gala. A champagne glass here, a dropped program there. The DA's office called, Eva announced, checking her phone. They're offering a deal. Minimal jail time if you cooperate in the investigation of Leandro's other fraud schemes. Jail? Regina's knees buckled. She gripped the counter. You'd send your own mother to jail? You sent yourself there, I replied. Every choice, every betrayal, every lie, they were all yours. I did it for us. She was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Everything I did was to make this place better, bigger. No. I held up grandmother's letter. You did it for yourself, because you couldn't stand that grandmother saw through you, that she trusted her legacy to someone else. What do you want from me? She whispered. The truth, all of it, starting with my father. For a moment, I thought she'd refuse. Then her shoulders sagged. His name is Marcus. He's a designer in Paris. She pulled out her phone, showed me a social media profile. He's tried to contact you over the years. I intercepted the messages. London was already typing on her laptop. Found him. He's successful, respected. And Emery, he posts about you. Every year on your birthday. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Patricia steadied me. The DA's waiting, Eva reminded us gently. Regina straightened her spine. One last attempt at dignity. I suppose you'll want me to grovel, beg forgiveness. No, I met her eyes. I want you to get help, real help, because this vendetta against grandmother, against Patricia, against me, it's destroyed you more than anyone. And if I refuse the DA's deal, then we'll see you in court. I gestured to the door. Either way, you have 5 minutes to leave my property. She looked around the boutique one last time, at the empire she'd tried to steal, at the daughter she'd tried to break. Something like regret flickered across her face. You really are her granddaughter, she said softly. Then she turned and walked out. We watched through the windows as she climbed into a waiting car, probably her lawyer's. As it pulled away, Patricia touched my shoulder. Are you going to contact him? Your father? I looked down at the social media profile, at the father who'd never stopped thinking about me. Yes, but first, we have a boutique to rebuild. London was already removing Regina's modernist decorations. Eva had started calling clients. Through the window, I saw Margaret returning to her old post, greeting early customers with familiar warmth. Your grandmother's letter, Patricia said. There's more. She turned the page. P.S. In the basement safe, combination 122863, you'll find my real gift to you, the one Regina never knew about. I looked at my family, not by blood, but by choice and loyalty, and smiled. Who wants to go on a treasure hunt? The boutique hummed with renewed energy as we headed for the basement, ready to uncover one last secret from the grandmother who'd seen it all coming. Regina was gone, but the legacy she'd tried to destroy? It was just getting started. The basement safe clicked open, revealing a leather portfolio and a handwritten note. My hands shook as I read grandmother's elegant script. My dearest Emery, these are my original designs, the ones that started everything. But more importantly, they're proof of something Regina never understood. True style isn't about following trends. It's about making women feel like their most authentic selves. I trust you to carry this forward. Love, grandmother. Inside the portfolio were sketches unlike anything I'd seen, innovative yet timeless, bold yet elegant, and tucked between them a business plan written in my grandmother's hand, detailing her vision for the boutique's future. These are incredible, Patricia breathed, examining the sketches. And look, notes about sustainable fashion, ethical manufacturing. She was decades ahead of her time. London's phone buzzed. The news about Regina and Leandro is everywhere. Fashion blogs are calling it the scandal of the year. She paused. And Emery, your father just posted about you. I looked at the screen. There was my face from last night's gala, alongside a message. My daughter, standing up for what's right, just like her grandmother. I've waited 28 years to say, I'm so proud of you. Call him, Eva urged. He's in New York this week for Fashion Week. Before I could respond, the boutique's door chimed. A woman in her 60s entered, looking around uncertainly. I'm sorry, she said. I know you're not open yet, but I got married in a Willow and Grace dress 30 years ago. When I heard what happened with Regina, I wanted to show you something. She opened her phone, showing us a photo of a young bride in a stunning vintage gown. Your grandmother designed this personally for me, she explained. I didn't have much money, but she saw how much I loved it and worked out a payment plan. That's what this place was about, making dreams accessible, not exclusive. More customers began arriving, women with similar stories, daughters of original clients, fashion students inspired by my grandmother's ethics. They filled the boutique with memories and hope. We should do something with this, London said. Not just rebuild, but evolve. Actually, I picked up grandmother's business plan. I think she already figured it out. Look at this, a mentorship program for young designers, sustainable fashion initiatives, community outreach. Patricia smiled. She knew you'd find this eventually, knew you'd understand. My phone rang. Christian, our lawyer. The DA made the announcement, he said. Regina took the deal. She's facing 18 months, plus restitution. Leandro's looking at 5 years. After I hung up, Eva touched my arm. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I looked around at the growing crowd in the boutique. I know exactly what we need to do. We spent the day implementing grandmother's vision. London set up a digital platform for emerging designers. Patricia began organizing a vintage collection showcase. Eva contacted ethical manufacturers. As evening fell, I found myself in my grandmother's office, my office now, looking at her portrait. A knock at the door made me turn. A man stood there, silver-haired but familiar from the social media photos. Marcus, I whispered. Emery, my father's voice broke. I saw the news and caught the first flight. I should have fought harder to stay in your life. Should have found a way around Regina's threats. You're here now. He stepped forward, hesitant. Your grandmother. She helped me stay updated about you. Sent photos, letters. She made sure I knew who you were becoming. Would you like to see what she left us? I gestured to the portfolio. We could use another designer's perspective. For hours, we pored over the sketches together, sharing stories, bridging the gap of lost years. He told me about his start in fashion, how grandmother had mentored him, how he'd fallen in love with Regina before ambition poisoned her. The boutique hummed with activity below. London directing website updates, Patricia arranging displays, Eva coordinating with press, my new family, building something beautiful from the ashes of Regina's destruction. You know, my father said, examining a particularly innovative design, these could be adapted for modern production while keeping their original spirit. That's exactly what grandmother would have wanted. I stood, decision made. Want to help us make it happen? He smiled, my smile, I realized with a start. I thought you'd never ask. The boutique's lights glowed warmly as evening deepened into night. Through the windows, I could see people stopping to admire the new window display. a blend of vintage pieces and contemporary designs, each telling a story of resilience and renewal. Regina had tried to erase our history, but she'd only made it stronger. Now we had something better than revenge. We had purpose. I touched my grandmother's portrait gently. "Thank you," I whispered, "for trusting me to understand." Below, London called up, "Emery, the first orders are coming in." I took one last look at the office, at the past Regina had tried to destroy and the future we were building. Then I headed downstairs to join my family, ready to write the next chapter of Willow and Grace, not as a revenge story, but as a legacy of love, authenticity, and the kind of strength that outlasts any betrayal.